The Fundamentals of Tauhid, Islamic Monotheism. Abu Ameenah Bilal Phillips. This book is highly recommended reading for those who would like to learn about the basis of Islam. There is no being worthy of worship except Allah, God, and Allah is absolutely one and absolutely unique. We note also that a Muslim is further obligated to accept the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as Allah's final prophet to humanity. Number 1. Chapter on the categories of Tauhid. Literally, Tauhid means unification, making something one, or asserting oneness, and it comes from the Arabic verb, wahada, which itself means to unite, unify, or consolidate. However, when the term Tauhid is used in reference to Allah, i.e. Tauhid Allah, it means the realizing and maintaining of Allah's unity in all of man's actions, which directly or indirectly relate to Him. It is the belief that Allah is one, without partner in His dominion and His actions, rububiyyah, one without similitude in His essence and attributes, asma wa sifat, and one without rival in His divinity and in worship, uluhiyyah/ibadah. These three aspects form the basis for the categories, into which the science of Tauhid has been traditionally divided. The three overlap and are inseparable to such a degree, that whoever omits any one aspect, has failed to complete the requirements of Tauhid. The omission of any of the above-mentioned aspects of Tauhid, is referred to as shirk, lit. Sharing, the association of partners with Allah, which in Islamic terms, is in fact idolatry. The three categories of Tauhid are commonly referred to by the following titles. 1. Tauhid ar-Rububiyyah, lit. Maintaining the unity of lordship. 2. Tauhid al-Asma wa Sifat, lit. Maintaining the unity of Allah's names and attributes. 3. Tauhid al-Ibadah, lit. Maintaining the unity of Allah's worship. 1. Tauhid ar-Rububiyyah, maintaining the unity of lordship. This category is based on the fundamental concept that Allah alone caused all things to exist. When there was nothing, He sustains and maintains creation without any need from it or for it, and He is the sole Lord of the universe and its inhabitants, without any real challenge to His sovereignty. In Arabic, the word used to describe this creator-sustainer quality, is rububiyyah, which is derived from the root, rab, Lord. According to this category, since God is the only real power in existence, it is He who gave all things the power to move and to change. Nothing happens in creation except what He allows to happen. In recognition of this reality, Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, used to often repeat the exclamatory phrase, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, there is no movement nor power except by Allah's will. The basis for the rububiyyah concept can be found in many Quranic verses. For example, Allah says, Allah created all things and He is the agent on which all things depend. Surah Az-Zumar, 39:62. And Allah created you all and whatever you do. Surah As-Safat 37:96. It was not you who threw, when you threw, but it was Allah who threw. Surah Al-Anfal 8:17. And no calamity strikes except by Allah's permission. Surah At-Taghabun 64:11. The Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, further elaborated on this concept saying, be aware that if the whole of mankind gathered together in order to do something to help you, they would only be able to do something for you, which Allah had already written for you. Likewise, if the whole of mankind gathered together to harm you, they would only be able to do something to harm you, which Allah had already written to happen to you. Reported by Ibn Abbas, and collected by At-Tirmidhi. See An-Nawawi's 40 Hadith. Thus, what man conceives as good fortune, and misfortune, are merely events predestined by Allah as part of the tests of this life. The incidents follow patterns set only by Allah. Allah has said in the Quran, O believers! Surely there is in your wives and children an enemy for you, so beware of them. Surah At-Taghabun 64:14. That is, within the good things of this life, there are severe tests of one's faith in God. Likewise, in the terrible events of life, there lies test as is mentioned in the verse. Surely we will test you with fear, hunger, loss of wealth and life and the fruits of your work, so give glad tidings to those who are patient. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:155. Sometimes the patterns are recognizable, as in the case of cause and effect relationships, and sometimes they are not, as in the case when apparently good results come from evil means, or bad results from good means. God has explained that the wisdom behind these apparent irregularities is often beyond man's immediate comprehension, due to his limited scope of knowledge. Perhaps you may dislike something which is really good for you, or like something bad for you, but Allah knows, and you do not. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:216. Apparently evil events, in human lives, sometimes turn out to be for the best, and apparently good things, which people desire, turn out to be harmful. Consequently, man's realm of influence in the course of events, which make up his life, is limited to the mental choice, between options presented to him, and not the actual results of his choice. In other words, man proposes and God disposes. Apparent good fortune and misfortune are both from Allah, and cannot be caused by good luck charms, such as rabbit's feet, four-leaf clovers, wishbones, lucky numbers, zodiacal signs, etc., or by omens of bad luck, like Friday the 13th, breaking mirrors, black cats, etc. In fact, the belief in charms and omens is a manifestation of the grave sin of shirk, association, in this form of Tauhid. Uqba, one of the companions of the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, reported that once a group of men approached Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to give their allegiance to him, and he accepted the oath from 9 of them, but refused to accept it from one. When they asked him why he refused their companion's oath, he replied, "Verily, he is wearing an amulet. Amulet is a charm, worn and believed to bring good fortune, or avert evil." The man who was wearing the amulet put his hand in his cloak, pulled the amulet off and broke it, then made the oath. The Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then said, "Whoever wears an amulet has committed shirk." Ahmad. As for using the Quran, like a charm or amulet, by wearing or carrying Quranic verses on chains or in pouches, to ward off evil or to bring good fortune, there is little difference between such practices and those of the pagans. Neither the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, nor his companions used the Quran in this fashion, and the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, said, "Whoever innovates in Islam, something which does not belong to it, will have it rejected." Sahih al-Bukhari. Arabic, English, Volume 3, page 535, number 861. It is true that the Quranic chapters, An-Nas and Al-Falaq, were revealed specifically for exorcism, that is, for removing evil spells, but the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, demonstrated the proper method by which they should be used. On an occasion when a spell had been cast on him, he told Ali ibn Abi Talib to recite the 2 chapters verse by verse, and when he became ill, he used to recite them on himself. Sahih al-Bukhari, Arabic English, Volume 6, page 495, number 535. He did not write them down, and hang them around his neck, tie them on his arm, or around his waist, nor did he tell others to do so. The Fundamentals of Tauhid. Islamic Monotheism. Abu Ameenah Bilal Phillips. This book is highly recommended reading for those who would like to learn about the basis of Islam, there is no being worthy of worship except Allah, God, and Allah is absolutely one, and absolutely unique. We note also that, a Muslim is further obligated to accept the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as Allah's final prophet to humanity. 2. Tauhid al-Asma wa Sifat, maintaining the unity of Allah's names and attributes. This category of Tauhid has 5 main aspects. 1. For the unity of Allah's names and attributes to be maintained in the first aspect, Allah must be referred to, according to how He and His Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, have described Him without explaining away His names and attributes, by giving them meanings other than their obvious meanings. For example, Allah in the Quran says, He gets angry with the disbelievers and the hypocrites. He says that He may punish the hypocrites, men and women, and the pagans, men and women, who have an evil opinion of Allah. A circle of evil is around them, Allah is angry with them, curses them, and has prepared for them an evil end. Surah Al-Fath 48:6. Thus, anger is one of God's attributes. It is incorrect to say that His anger must mean His punishment, since anger is a sign of weakness in man, and as such, not befitting of Allah. What Allah has stated should be accepted with the qualification that His anger is not like human anger, based on Allah's statement, there is nothing like Him. 22, Surah Ash-Shura 42:11. The process of so-called rational interpretation, when taken to its logical conclusion, results in the denial of God's very existence. 4. Allah describes Himself as living and man lives, therefore, according to the rationalist argument, God is neither living nor existing. The fact is that, the similarity between God's attributes, and those of mankind, is only in name and not in degree. When attributes are used in reference to God, they are to be taken in the absolute sense, free from human deficiencies. 2. The second aspect of Tawhid al-Asma wa Sifat, involves referring to Allah as He has referred to Himself, without giving Him any new names or attributes. For example, Allah may not be given the name Al-Ghadab, the Angry One, in spite of the fact that He has said that He gets angry, because neither Allah nor His Messenger has used this name. This may seem to be a very fine point, but it must be maintained, in order to prevent the false description of God. That is, finite man is in no position to define the infinite Lord of creation. 3. In the third aspect of Tawhid al-Asma wa Sifat, Allah is referred to without giving Him the attributes of His creation. For example, it is claimed in the Bible and Torah, that Allah spent the first 6 days creating the universe, then slept on the seventh. For this reason, Jews and Christians take either Saturday or Sunday as a day of rest, in which work is looked at as a sin. Such a claim assigns to God the attributes of His creation. It is man who tires after heavy work, and needs sleep to recuperate. In contrast, Allah says explicitly in the Quran, no tiredness overcomes Him nor sleep. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:255. Elsewhere in the Bible and Torah, God is portrayed as repenting for His bad thoughts, in the same way that humans do, when they realize their errors. Similarly, the claim that God is a spirit or has a spirit, completely ruins this area of Tawhid. Allah does not refer to Himself as a spirit anywhere in the Quran, nor does His Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, express anything of that nature in hadith. In fact, Allah refers to the spirit as part of His creation. 26 Allah clearly states that in the following verse, they ask you, Muhammad, about the spirit. Tell them that the spirit exists by my Lord's command. Surah Al-Isra 17:85. The key principle which should be followed when dealing with Allah's attributes is the Quranic formula. There is nothing like Him, and He is hearer and seer of all. 27, Surah Ash-Shura 42-11. The attributes of hearing and seeing are among human attributes, but when they are attributed to the Divine Being, they are without comparison in their perfection. However, when these attributes are associated with men, they necessitate ear and eye apparatuses, which cannot be attributed to God. What man knows about the Creator is only what little he has revealed to him through his prophets. Therefore, man is obliged to stay within these narrow limits. When man gives free rein to his intellect in describing God, he is liable to fall into errors, by assigning to Allah the attributes of his creation. In their love of pictorial representations, Christians have painted, carved, and molded innumerable human likenesses, and called them images of God. These have served to pave the way for the acceptance of Jesus's divinity among the masses. Once they accepted the conception of the Creator as being like a human being, accepting Jesus as God presented no real problem. 4. The fourth aspect of Tauhid al-Asma was Sifat, requires that man not be given the attributes of Allah. 5. Maintaining the unity of Allah's names also means that Allah's names in the definite form cannot be given to his creation, unless preceded by the prefix, abdu, meaning slave of or servant of. Many of the divine names in their indefinite form, like Rauf and Rahim, are allowable names for men, because Allah has used some of them in their indefinite forms, to refer to the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. A messenger has come to you from among yourselves, to whom anything which burdens you is grievous. He is full of concern for you and is full of pity, Rauf, and full of mercy, Rahim. 33, Surah At-Tawbah 9:128. But Ar-Rauf, the one most full of pity, and Ar-Rahim, the most merciful, can only be used to refer to men, if they are preceded by abd as in Abdur Rauf or Abdur Rahim, since in the definite form, they represent a level of perfection which only belongs to God. Similarly, names like Abdur Rasul, slave of the messenger, Abdun Nabi, slave of the Prophet, Abdul Hussein, slave of Hussein, etc., where people name themselves slaves to other than Allah, are also forbidden. Based on this principle, the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, forbade Muslims from referring to those put under their charge, as Abdi, my slave, or Mat, my slave girl. 34, Sunan Abu Dawud, English translation. Volume 3, pp. 1385-86, number 4957. 3. Tauhid al-Ibadah, maintaining the unity of worship. In spite of the wide implications of the first two categories of Tauhid, firm belief in them alone is not sufficient to fulfill the Islamic requirements of Tauhid. Tauhid ar-Rububiyya and Tauhid al-Asma was Sifat must be accompanied by their complement, Tauhid al-Ibadah, in order for Tauhid to be considered complete, according to Islam. This point is substantiated by the fact that Allah himself has related in clear terms that the mushrikun, idolaters of the Prophet's time, confirmed many aspects of the first two forms of Tauhid. In the Quran, Allah tells the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to say to the pagans, "Say, who is it that gives you all sustenance from the sky and earth, governs sight and hearing, brings forth life from dead and death from the living, and plans the affairs of man?" They will all say Allah. 35, Surah Yunus 10:31. If you ask them who created them, they would surely say, Allah. 36, Surah Zukhruf, 43:87. If you ask them, who brings down water from the sky, and with it, brings the earth to life after its death? They will most certainly say, Allah. 37, Surah Al-Ankabut, 29:63. The pagan Makkans all knew that Allah was their creator, sustainer, their Lord and Master, yet that knowledge did not make them Muslims according to God. In fact, Allah said, most of them do not believe in Allah, except while joining partners to Him. 38, Surah Yusuf, 12:106. Mujahid's commentary on this verse was as follows: their belief in Allah represented by their statement, Allah created us, provides for us, and takes our lives, did not stop them from worshipping other gods along with Allah. 40. Ibn Jarir at-Tabari. From the previously mentioned verses. 40. Ibn Jarir Tabari. From the previously mentioned verses, it is clear that the kuffar, disbelievers, knew of Allah's sovereignty, dominion, and power. In fact, they used to faithfully devote various types of worship to him like Hajj, charity, animal sacrifices, and even prayers, in times of dire necessity and calamity. They even used to claim that they were following the religion of Abraham. Because of that claim, Allah revealed the verse. Abraham was not a Jew nor was he a Christian, but he was a true Muslim, and not among those who joined partners with Allah. 41. Surah Al-Imran, 3:67. Some pagan Makkans even believed in the resurrection, and the judgment, and others in predestination, qadar. Ample evidence of their belief can be found in pre-Islamic poetry. In spite of the Makkans' confessions of Tauhid, and their knowledge of Allah, Allah classified them as disbelievers, kuffar, and pagans, mushrikun, simply because they worshipped other gods, along with their worship of Allah. Consequently, the most important aspect of Tauhid is that of Tauhid al-Ibadah, maintaining the unity of Allah's worship. All forms of worship must be directed only to Allah, because He alone deserves worship, and it is He alone who can grant benefit to man, as a result of his worship. Furthermore, there is no need for any form of intercessor or intermediary between man and God. Allah emphasized the importance of directing worship to Him alone, by pointing out that this was the main purpose of man's creation, and the essence of the message brought by all the prophets. Allah says, I did not create the jinn and mankind except for my worship. 43, Surah Ad-Dariyat, 51:56. Verily, we have sent to every nation a messenger, saying, worship Allah and avoid false gods. 44, Surah An-Nahl, 16:36. Understanding the purpose of creation in a complete sense is beyond man's innate abilities. Man is a finite created being, and cannot reasonably hope to fully comprehend the actions of the infinite Creator. Hence, God made it a part of man's nature to worship Him, and He sent prophets and books of divine revelation to clarify the aspect of the purpose of creation, which was within man's mental ability to grasp. That purpose is, as was previously mentioned, the worship of God, Ibadah, and the main message of the prophets was to worship God alone, Tawhid al-Ibadah. Consequently, the gravest sin is shirk, the worship of others instead of Allah or along with Allah. In Surah Al-Fatiha, which every Muslim is required to recite, in his, or her, prayers at least 17 times daily, verse 4 reads, You alone do we worship, and from you alone do we seek help. A clear statement, that all forms of worship should only be directed to the one who can respond, Allah. The Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, confirmed the concept of unity of worship saying, if you ask in prayer, ask only Allah, and if you seek help, seek it only from Allah. 45, reported by Ibn Abbas and collected by At-Tirmidhi. See in Nawawi's 40 Hadith, English translation, page 68. The absence of any need for intercession is further emphasized by the many verses indicating His closeness to man. For example, when my servants ask you, O Muhammad, about me, tell them, verily I am close to them, I listen to the prayer of every one who calls on me. So let them respond to me, and believe in me, in order that they may be guided aright. 46, Surah Al-Baqarah, 2:186. It is we, who created man, and we know what his soul whispers to him, for we are nearer to him than his jugular vein. 47, Surah Qaf, 50:16. The confirmation of Tawhid al-Ibadah conversely necessitates the denial of all forms of intercession or association of partners with Allah. If someone prays to the dead, seeking their influence on the lives of the living, or the souls of those who have passed away, they have associated a partner with Allah, because worship is being shared between Allah and His creation. The Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, said, in no uncertain terms, prayer, dua, is worship. And, Allah, most great and glorious, said, do not worship besides Allah, that which cannot help or harm you. 49, Surah Al-Anbiya, 21:66. Those on whom you call besides Allah, are only slaves like yourselves. 50, Surah Al-Araf, 7:194. If someone prays to the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to so-called saints, jinns, or angels, asking for help, or asking them to request help from Allah for them, they have also committed shirk. If Allah allows harm to befall you, none can remove it except Him. 52, Surah Al-An'am, 6:17. According to the Quran, when the Makkans were questioned about directing their prayers to their idols, they answered, we only worship them, so that they may bring us closer to Allah. 53, Surah Zumar, 39:3. The idols were only used as intermediaries, yet Allah called them pagans, for their practice. Those among Muslims who insist on praying to other than Allah, would do well to reflect on this fact. Worship, ibadah, in the Islamic view, includes more than just fasting, paying zakah, hajj and animal sacrifices. It includes emotions like love, trust, and fear, all of which have degrees, which should only be directed to God. Allah has addressed these emotions, and warned against excesses in them as follows. There are among men, those who take, for worship, others besides Allah as equals to Him. They love them as they should only love Allah. But those who believe, have a much greater love of Allah. 55, Surah Al-Baqarah, 2:165. Put your trust in Allah, if you are truly believers. 57, Surah Al-Ma'idah, 5:23. The full book The Fundamentals of Tauhid, Islamic Monotheism. By Ameenah Bilal Phillips. This book is highly recommended reading for those who would like to learn about the basis of Islam, the oneness of the Creator. There is no being worthy of worship except Allah, God, and Allah is absolutely one and absolutely unique.